Hey, welcome back to another episode of OUTSIDEIN.
Your go-to source for honest conversations about relationships and marriage.
So if you are ready, let's go.
Hello, welcome back to another episode.
Welcome back. Today's topic, right? Today's topic, kan.
Panas.
Wait. I want to give song.
Oh, going to give song. Oh,
Today's topic, right? Wow. It's gonna be very enlightening, sensitive, can be a little bit sticky. But we have to talk about it.
Yes, we have to.
Yes, because as a community, we must all work together to improve our marriages.
Wow,
InsyaAllah.
Yes, so
Tapi sebelum itu,
yes, this podcast is brought to you by
Sri Kandi Associates.
Looking for your first matrimonial house? Planning to upgrade?
Look no further. For your property matters, contact Sri Kandi Associates at 8788-3559 8788-355-9.
Betul,
Sri Kandi, jangan tak jadi. Alright.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about
Infidelity.
okay. Infidelity tu in layman's term, cheating.
Cheating.
And whatever encompasses whatever that, part of the different types of infidelities and whatnot.
So we are going to introduce our guests today, Nabilah and Basithah from Sym Academy.
Hi.
Hello.
So we are very happy that you guys are here today because for the past year and so we've been looking for, we're wanting to work with professionals to talk about marriage issues and to really delve deeper into what entails a marriage in this specific case.
Betul.
We're talking about infidelity.
Yes, and of course, first and foremost, we do not condone.
Yes.
But today we are just going to honestly talk about why infidelity happens, and if it does happen, how can you move forward, and if it's even possible to recover your marriage.
Yes. Before that, maybe we can have Nabilah and Basithah to actually introduce yourself to us.
So first of all, I think we want to thank you for inviting us and also wanting to have honest conversations about a very difficult topic. But it's I think it's very brave of you guys to want to talk about it, and we were so grateful that we are invited here. My name is Nabilah Bagarib. I am from PPIS Sym Academy and one of the senior therapists there. I've been in the field working with couples and families for about 8 years now.
Alhamdulillah. So for the past 8 years, is it okay for me to ask how many couples have you been?
I don't know, probably in the thousands.
MashaAllah.
Probably over the years, because we do see cases on a daily basis. So it's our bread and butter lah.
Yes. But they were telling us offline that now more people are actually willingly going for therapy sessions, right? So I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
About Basithah.
So my name is Basithah Zulkifli. I am also one of the senior therapists at Sym Academy.
Nice.
Also 8 years this leap year. Macam 2 years je lah, kan? But it's 8 years as well. So because I think part of the work that we do is having cases from Sharia court. So we do see a lot of cases, a lot of couples. So that's the bulk of the work that we do.
Right.
So the biggest question let me just start off the biggest question first. Is infidelity the number one reason for divorce
In Singapore.
I just want to address this, right? So because I hear when you were introducing the topic, whispering. You were talking about infidelity in whispers, and I think the fact that I just want to echo what Nabilah was saying. Thank you for having us, because this is a really important topic to talk about. Statistically speaking, in Singapore, it has actually been one of the top 3 reasons for the last decade as to why people apply for divorces in Singapore.
The last decade, that means 10 years.
Yeah, and this is specifically our Malay Muslim or Muslim community, right? So infidelity definitely contributes to it, but it's not the only reason for it. Right. So, but it's something that's worth looking into.
Yes.
Right.
We've seen many different cases publicly, and then also there are also those who are not public, and people we receive DMs as well on how they want to remove or how they want to move forward when they find their partners cheating on them and things like that. And I think is I'm really excited to talk about this topic.
Yes.
Because I want to see how deep we can go.
Right.
Inshallah.
I think at the start, I know this is supposed to be questions that you guys ask to us, but I do want to ask you guys at the start of the conversation. If that's all right.
Yes.
What would you guys say infidelity is? How would you describe what infidelity is?
Infidelity, to me personally, right? To me personally, I feel like even if it's emotional, I would consider it as cheating. More so physical lah. Physical is of course, to me is you're stepping over the boundaries, which is a no. But emotional also, I feel like I would consider it as cheating.
Right. What about you, Yanto?
Okay, to me, infidelity is when you place someone the same level as you place your wife or your husband. Like the moment you feel emotionally connected to someone else when it's supposed to be sacred to just the two of you, then that's where infidelity starts to kick in. Whether or not it's physical, whether or not it's emotional, even the time spent with someone out of certain situations like work, if you were to spend so much time and emotions and whatnot, that in itself is the trigger for emotion. That in itself is my definition for infidelity.
Right. Very interesting. Right. So I mean, if I were to just put a bit of a complexity in it, right? If somebody were to say, okay, I'm just texting, didn't do anything, what? But yes, I might have some feelings, but I wouldn't call it love. I just this is just an attraction.
Right.
Is that considered infidelity?
Oh.
Just an attraction, and they're texting them.
Oh, can I say?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I've always had this thought. I've always had this perspective. Like if you were human law of attraction, is in a sense, if let's say I'm attracted to someone physically or towards emotion, is because we have allowed ourselves as individuals to pay attention to someone else when that attention is supposed to be paid to your wife or your husband.
Right.
Yeah. So the moment we feel a sense of attraction to someone else is because you allowed it to happen. It might happen naturally if we spend a bit too much time, but if we don't quell or we don't put out the fire that is not supposed to be there in the first place, then it's just a spell for trouble.
Right.
Yeah, that's my definition.
What do you think of that?
Wow. I mean, like, alhamdulillah that he has that mindset.
Yeah.
And also I feel like if you give another person more attention than your own spouse, then that's a little bit of
No.
something that I would be wary about.
Be like a red flag for you.
Red flag, yeah.
Right.
Okay, but then can I pause? You have flick on your
Flick? Oh no!
That's so adorable. So, I mean, it's interesting that both of you have pretty similar descriptions of what infidelity could look like, right? But in our experience, infidelity, if you add in more complexity, let's say, for example, I know this might be a bit tough to hear, right? So, if the person started out as cheating, having extramarital affairs, and then they decided to get married, right? And in Islam, we're allowed to be in a polygamous marriage. Would that be considered cheating too? Right? So you see, as I give you all these descriptions or examples, it may not be so straightforward, number one. Number two, there's a lot of complexity when it comes to infidelity. Like both of you have similar descriptions to the definition of infidelity, but that might not be the same for everybody.
Right. If one person has a different definition, then how to resolve it, right?
Correct.
Like, no, it's not cheating to me, but it's cheating to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not cheating, but you are.
I think the description is one, the labeling is another, right? So we've been using the word infidelity, cheating interchangeably, but to some people it's not. Right? Yes, I had an affair, but I wasn't really cheating. Or maybe I was in an infidelity relationship or whatever, so but I'm not doing the other one. So sometimes the word used to describe it, it itself can be very different.
Wow. Interesting.
So by definition, is there a by definition for the word infidelity in this case?
I think if we were to quote Esther Perel, I think she describes infidelity when there is secrecy. When there's any, I think that's the commonality. When there's any form of secrecy that happens within the context of the marriage, that's where there is potential for trust to be broken, and then that could constitute as infidelity.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually wow.
Yeah.
But in like layman terms, right? I think I want us to start this conversation by thinking about how complex infidelity or even the word infidelity is.
Okay.
Because like you mentioned, there's different people have different opinions or definition of infidelity, and because I feel personally, I feel like there's no one level to everyone. Like there's no common definition as of the society wise in a sense. So for someone to, it can cause a lot of friction between husband and wife, and then at the same time, that friction can lead to worse cases of infidelity. Like you don't understand me, I don't understand you, and then more friction, blah blah blah. Then there was. Yeah.
So keeping in mind that infidelity is a complex thing, right? How many types of infidelities are there?
What would you consider the types of infidelities?
Right. So, I mean, generally, we would constitute infidelity as to 3 different types. Number one, it's emotional or romantic.
Okay.
Right. That's where you would you maybe have fantasies about the person. You have romantic relationships with the other person. You want to build a, there's a lot of feelings that comes to it, right? It's emotional. The second one is physical or sexual, right? So this is where you talk about your one night stands, or you engage paid services, for example, right? Or you have just casual, intimate relationships with another person, no emotions involved, right? And the third one is a combination of both emotional and sexual, and that one would be one of the harder infidelity types to actually recover from.
Oh wow.
Oh, I think there are many cases also, like I have heard personally that I know the husband contacts another lady and then they don't meet, they just text. But because through the text he gains expressions and he gains emotions, and then somehow or other, one way or another, they got caught, and then his reason is, I'm just texting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for the wife, it's infidelity. It's like, no, you're cheating on me with another woman, even though they never met and things like that. So that is, I think that would be number one, the emotional part. But how does it, maybe we can delve deeper into how all these 3 types of infidelity can actually be,
Impact.
how can it actually impact a marriage? Because we all know that for general cases, when we actually, catch someone cheating or we catch our spouse cheating, we feel hurt that no, I'm going to break up with you, I'm going to divorce you, because
it's the end lah.
Yeah, it's the end. Generally, from what I understand, is that once you cheat, that's it.
And even if it comes to a point where your partner cheats and you still love him so much, but you don't know how to move forward. Yeah. So the impact.
Yeah. What does it actually do to a relationship?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it can have multiple impacts on a relationship, right? So it can affect how you see each other, how you communicate with each other. And also we hear from clients talking about trust being, from having 100% maybe going to a 0. So they talk about the betrayal, and these are the aspects of, impact that it has on the people. So for us as therapists and the couples that we work with, we look at 2 different people, right? 2 different aspects. So there is the person who committed the betrayal, and then the person who has been betrayed. So there are emotions behind what has happened, or behind these individuals. So it impacts the person who has been betrayed because they feel the lack of, the loss of trust, feeling betrayed, feeling the pain, feeling like, what's wrong with me?
Is it me?
Yes,
Did I
is
do
it
anything
me?
wrong?
Right? So, and for the person who have done the betrayal, it could be shame, it could be feeling guilt, right? So it impacts how they see themselves, and potentially if it's a physical relationship, sometimes we do hear them talking about their relationship with God. So it's not just relationship with spouse, there's relationship with God as well.
Right.
So it's impacting a person or a couple in many different ways, right?
I think I had something in my head I wanted to ask. Okay, talking about the betrayed and the betrayer. Let's put that for now. Because I would like to understand, because there are some that the betrayer, they say that it's because I don't feel appreciated, and I don't feel this, I don't feel that. So he's trying to justify the act of his betrayal. So in that aspect, how do we actually address the betrayer's betrayal?
How do we address the betrayer's betrayal, right? I think I want us to think about it. I mean, we're not justifying, we're not condoning, right? What we are attempting to do is to give an explanation, a bit of an insight about what goes on into the mind of somebody who may potentially commit the act of betrayal, right? Is these things don't happen in isolation, right? Which means that if there are moments where they feel like maybe the wife is not paying attention to them. I mean, I'm saying wife, right? Because typically in my head, it's the men who commit the act of betrayal. But actually, statistically, there's a lot more women who are actually committing the act of betrayal as well. Right? So in terms of, is it more men than women? I think we are seeing it's relatively fairly the same, right? At least in the ones that come through our doors. Like, these are not official statistics, right? And the idea is, maybe there are moments where they feel like they're not heard of, they're not being acknowledged, they're not being paid enough attention to. There's really moments where they disconnect from each other. And you see how I'm describing it is the experience of the person who was betrayed is in relation to the person who betrayed them. Right? That means it doesn't happen in a vacuum, because we're talking about relationships, kan? Right? So what you do would have an impact on her. What you do would have an impact on him. Right? So it's often not done in isolation. So sometimes in our work with couples, we really pay attention to, okay, what is this unmet needs? That's the word, right?
You use that a lot of times. Unmet expectations, unmet needs.
Unmet expectations, unmet needs, and most of the time we don't articulate, right? What these expectations and what these needs are. And when we don't have moments where we can communicate to our partners about it, it can either be brushed aside or we play this game called mind reading. Right? We love mind reading.
Common.
I'm your wife, you should know what.
I'm your wife, you should know. I'm your husband, you should know this is what I expect of you. But if these are not articulated, then there's also a lot of room for miscommunication. There's a lot of room for people not understanding what each other is needing. There's a lot of room where you can just make a lot of assumptions about each other, which is so far away from the truth.
I think the moment you start making assumptions, that's when you can really create a different person in your head. I feel like when someone makes an assumption, you're creating a personality that doesn't even exist for someone else. I mean, I'm just saying it lah.
Potentially.
Yeah. So
right?
and then there goes the whole communication part about, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and then the partner will feel like, but that's not what I do, and it creates a lot of miscommunication, and then you're not connecting through the heart anymore. You're just connecting through words that is of zero base, like baseless words.
So this is one thing when my clients say, because they both are very good at communicating with each other. So he said this, and which strikes me. He said, we talk a lot, but we don't communicate. Right? And so I was like, that's a very interesting way of, phrasing it. So I asked him, what do you mean? He said, because I can articulate very well in my context, my job or whatever, but when it comes to communicating with my spouse or my spouse communicating with me, I think we don't do that, because there's a lot of things that we brush under the carpet. There's a lot of things that we know if we talk about it, it will be like World War III. So we end up not addressing, and these are things that has built up over certain time, and that's where the disconnect can happen.
I think if we were to add another layer to this unmet need or expectation, I think a question would be, do you even know what you need to begin with?
Wow.
Right?
Do we know what we need?
And then I've seen comments like, women don't even know what they need.
Well,
that kind of
men also know what they need.
That's the thing. We also don't know.
So as much as we're talking about communicating needs, right? First, as a person, as an individual, there is also a need to look into what is it that I need.
I think that's very important. Okay, so talking about these unmet needs, right? In your experience, what are the most common reasons for infidelity?
The ones that we have heard.
Maybe you have some stories to share as well.
I think when people talk about reasons, right, there's never really just one reason. I think we have heard, couples, and maybe Nabilah can also share, people talking about the idea of seeking thrill, the idea of seeking something that's missing, the idea of seeking themselves even with another person. So there's actually not really one reason per se, but there are a lot of things that it's very individual based, and that's we're needing to look at the person themselves. What is it that they are needing? So it goes back to the need, you see. What does this person need that makes this person go in that direction? Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's one, people think that when you cheat, that means you're not happy in your marriage. But actually, there's new research that the work by Esther Perel. She talks about how happy couples cheat too.
Oh wow! Why? Yeah.
Why?
Right, and this is I mean, based on her research, right? It's the idea of we are always in the pursuit of happiness. You know how like this concept of like FOMO, there's paradox of choices. There's so many choices around, right? I want to be able, if I do one experience, I might be missing out on another. So that constant pursuit of happiness sometimes make you also want to explore things that might not be within the purview of your marriage.
Right. I don't know whether I read it somewhere or I saw somewhere that sometimes you feel comfortable in your marriage already. I think talking about being happy in a marriage and yet still cheat. So I've seen cases I've seen somewhere that the couple are happy, but then one of them meets someone else, and then only then he realizes, oh, I'm missing this from my marriage. But prior to them meeting that person, they're fine.
Everything is fine.
Yeah, and then that leads him to cheating. Yeah, like in a way you're looking on the other side of the grass. No.
The grass
Because
is greener on the other side.
Yeah, in a sense. But
right.
but the thing is, he's been on the same patch of grass all the time. For example.
Right.
But because you see something else different, and say, oh, my grass patch don't have a worm. I don't know.
Of all the things.
I can't think of any at the top of my head. But yeah, but that is, I feel that is what really can happen in a marriage also.
Yeah.
That, to create infidelity.
And I think sometimes it's also about them wanting to find themselves back again, right? We put it in a certain context. You've been married for maybe 10 years. You are a worker, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're this, you're that. But then what happened to the person of the individual?
Who am I?
Who am I, right? And then your spouse may not be paying enough attention on you, or just see you within certain roles, but don't see you as you, right? And then suddenly come along somebody who sees that part of you, because you're also searching for that part of you.
Yeah.
Right? You're searching for, who am I as a person? Am I just a mother, for example? Am I just a wife? Am I just this? Am I just that? And who am I as a person? So sometimes in their pursuit of trying to find themselves, they look to others to validate what they're looking for.
Wow. I think, wow. I'm like...
What's that reaction? Maybe share with us your
Because
thoughts.
I feel that in this day and age where, especially in our society, both men and women are working full-time working adults. And then, like you said, they are tasked with a lot of all the different roles that is in their life. But how then can one actually avoid feeling that way? Because I think it's inevitable that we are facing so much pressure on ourselves. We are putting so much pressure on ourselves to maintain whatever roles that we've been given. But when the escape to find true happiness comes, the moment we let go of the apa nama dia? Keimanan apa? The moment we just the moment we succumb to temptations, they just fall off the bandwagon and then proceed with infidelity. Because I don't know how else we can actually address that.
I think my question is, in the context that you just described, right? They want to find out who they are, and then it just so happens that another person, not their spouse, sees that and appreciates that. Is that then a reason to cheat?
Kan?
That would be my question lah.
Like the whole image in my head is playing apa tau. Like you choose to get married, you choose to this, you choose to and then after that responsibilities are piling on you as how life's supposed to be. This is a life progression. And then the moment you get a chance to feel young again, you just go for it.
But that's the thing. It's not about feeling young again. It's about finding yourself.
Finding
which is at the core of who we are as a person. We're always individually, we're always in a journey of finding who we are.
Yeah.
Maybe what's our purpose in life, what is the meaning of, it's very natural to do that, right? If you're going back to your question, is that enough reason to cheat? Our answer generally would be there's no reason that can justify cheating.
Oh, I like that.
Right? No reason. It happens. Yes, it happens for whatever unfortunate reasons. I'm not saying that it's not valid. Some of the reasons could be valid, but there's unmet needs, whatever the psychology is behind it, whatever the insight it is, but there's no justification to okay cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't go.
We don't go
No matter what, because we always believe that no matter what the situation is, as long as it's just between the two of you, solve it as much as possible. Because the moment we don't address it just between the two of you, you're going to be looking for other options.
You're looking out for other opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? But I think in this context, I think the more difficult question is it in the community is happening. Like Basithah shared earlier, over the past decade, that's the top 3 reasons why people apply for divorce, right? So there must be something that's happening. And then if you look at the community, there's a lot of these incidents happening. But does it always end up in divorce? That's the question mark.
Right.
Can we heal from episodes of infidelity? I think that's the larger question that we need to ask ourselves.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so I'm like, wow.
Yeah, this episode is really macam wah.
Cut that out, okay? so like maybe we touch deeper on that, like how exactly does infidelity really affect an individual, like both for the betrayed and the betrayal. Yeah.
Of course, if it was me, I would feel macam, am I not enough?
Yeah. Because we did talk about this in one episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my confidence and like, I don't know if I can trust you again, even if I wanted to. Like, those are the feelings.
And then we also asked the question like, would you forgive me if I cheat on you and things like that? Because I don't know, because we haven't been in that situation. Alhamdulillah, haven't been in that situation. But my first response to the question of will you forgive me if I cheat on you? My first response is I can forgive, but I cannot forget. And at the same time, it's because I know my love for her is a lot. I do not want to forgo the relationship. I want to mend the relationship instead because I love her, right? But I don't know how it feels like if let's say I see her with another man. Inshallah tak lah. But
like it's very valid what you said, because you love me so much, but then you are you are feeling so betrayed. Then how do we?
Right. So that's where the complexity lies. It's not straightforward. I think we get, it's very easy for us to say, oh, you cheated, you're the one who got cheated. This is the bad guy, this is the good guy.
Yeah, the blame
the blame starts happening, the judgment starts happening. But only the couple will truly know what has happened in their relationship. Right? So of course, like what you said, there is a sense of one of the biggest impact is betrayal is the loss of trust. Right? And realistically, even when we work with couples, there's no such thing as going back to 100%. It's almost like you break a glass. You can piece it back together, right? You can put gold in between. I think there's the Japanese. I forgot what the name is. But
it's not like before.
It will not be like before, right? And that is a realistic expectations that we put out with our clients when they want to work on infidelity, right? Other things like what you mentioned, there's loss of confidence. That it's at multiple levels. The self, the partner, the relationship, because it's not what they thought it was. Right? And it's also like there's also a lot of grief happening when it comes to this, because you're grieving the idea of your partner, you're grieving the idea of self, you're grieving the idea of, hey, this is what I imagine our future to be like. Now there's this other person who was in the mix or still in the mix. I don't know how to make sense of it. I don't know how, my brain cannot compute. Right? And it's almost like discovering. I think you mentioned this word about, hey, you should know me what? Oh, I know you. You're my husband. You're my wife. And then there's a huge element that you did not know about your partner, and that is a shock to the system.
I see. Wow. Every time after you stop talking, you're like.
I'm glad I have this episode.
Okay, so my other question would be, like you mentioned just now, infidelity too is not in isolation, right? So. And also you mentioned that only the couple would know really what happened, right? So even before we talk about divorce and like mending things after that, as a couple right now, right, what are some of the things that we can, because I realize like our generation nowadays are having a hard time to have difficult conversations. And like really macam, like you said, macam your client just now tadi kan, dia cakap we can talk but we cannot communicate, and we always brush things under the rug.
How do we actually enter a difficult conversation?
Macam if
properly.
he has unmet needs, and then we are finding it hard to communicate.
Like tell you I need something, but really telling her I need something. How
so
do
it
we
doesn't
address
end up infidelity.
Right. Actually, my curiosity is about you guys. How did you have that?
Actually, right, honestly, right, all the hard conversations, I start first. Correct or not?
Yeah. I have the hardest inertia to actually talk about something. Yeah. So to me, like if I feel that it's a hard topic to talk about, I fear the fact that it could lead to hurt or it could lead to mistrust and things like that. So those fear in me stops me from opening up the topic or conversation. But alhamdulillah, Farah is one who wants to talk about these kind of things. Like for example, even if it's as simple as meeting, planning a day, or maybe choosing one over the other. But she is I find it an issue. I find it an issue. She wants to address it. Yeah, and then I'll be like,
I can tell like his body language, like he like doesn't want to talk about it, like.
But what made you stay in the conversation?
Because I know that she's right.
Oh, interesting.
Is that something new that you're hearing?
Yeah. Because during those times, in my mind is like, okay, this is a very difficult conversation, right? But if I feel like if I don't address it, we are going to sleep tonight without resolving this, and it doesn't sit right with me. So I try to, like, my approach is always I try to be very gentle and like approach him with softness, and usually that's what works with him lah. Yeah, but it doesn't
She
change
found the key.
Found the key.
Yeah, but usually it's like me who's trying to like,
hello. But
go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like what she actually does in this kind of situation for the both of us, I feel that it's necessary for me, knowing that I myself have a hard time opening up. But I think I can't say for others, but I don't know how else. If it's not her, I don't think I'll be able to open up.
I think, thank you for sharing that part, what goes on. Because that's exactly it, right? Someone has to initiate the conversation and someone has to be open to have the conversation, to be willing in that conversation despite the discomfort. Because the discomfort is going to happen. It's going to be uncomfortable, definitely having this conversation. But if there is willingness to have that conversation, that's already a good start. I think the second point that, alhamdulillah, definitely. I think the second point that you have also highlighted, which I think a lot of couples do in learning, because this is a learning process. You need to learn how to communicate with each other. You need to learn how to start. Because I hear people say it all the time. Oh, saya tak biasa cakap macam gitu lah. Or saya tak biasa nak panggil darling or something. So it's not usual, but it's not unlearnable, right? So it's something that can be learned, something that can be implemented in a relationship if that's what your spouse is wanting. So what Farah said just now was apt, because you are being mindful of how he is as a person, or what's going on with him, and how to approach, and you know that this is important to her, and you reciprocate as well. So I think that aspect is really important in a couple relationship, wanting to communicate difficult conversations.
But sometimes after the whole conversation, I'll be like, penatnya berbual.
Memang penat kan?
Definitely.
Usually after that, right, we were like, okay, time to sleep. Then just very quiet, right? Then on the bed, both on our phones. And then this is how we break the ice. Kelakar tengok. And then everything okay already.
Because we already, so-called, in a way, we resolve the issue, but there's always that tension, because it's difficult after all. But I think bedek lah nak cakap kalau kita ni tak rasa macam a sense of macam marah sikit ke apa, it's probably going to be there. Pasal it's normal human feelings, I feel. So but I think
and that's the reality of it, right? You have to expect that it will be difficult, and it is going to be tough. It will stir up very different kinds of emotions or different parts of who you
Definitely.
are. So the question would be what would allow me to stay? Right? It's often, I think, what Basithah is, if I can put it in a word, is how do we create safe space to have conversation with each other, especially when it's very difficult, right? I mean, it's called communication skills for a reason. It's a skill that can be learned, right? In our couple sessions, sometimes people get surprised because I said, we teach couples how to argue. And they're like, why? Why do you teach people how to argue? And I'm like, because we get into arguments very often. There's no marriage that does not have any arguments. But what would be the intent of why you bring up these difficult conversations? Perhaps it's about, whatever needs or expectations that you have, things that are not sitting very well. But it's also, you don't enter a difficult conversation to disconnect. Your intent is often to connect.
Betul.
Right? But the manner is very important because if you, for example, your husband just come back home from work and then you start berating. This is the thing that I'm unhappy about. Fireworks goes on.
Instant fight.
The instant reaction would be what, Yanto?
Aku pernah balik, the first thing you tak ada sayang-sayang, nak marah-marah apa.
Right? You get both defensive and also you get very aggressive, right? And you the whole day, imagine Farah, right? The whole day you've been holding it together, you don't want to disturb him at work, you think you're being mindful, but then the moment he comes in, you cannot tahan anymore, and then you explode, right? And if his reaction was to be aggressive or defensive, how would you feel?
I feel like, I tengah marah balik. Gitu.
It becomes fire and fire.
You might not feel like you are heard or acknowledged because what are the things that you may be raising is important. But you see the manner, the timing, bila, all of this play a very important part. So sometimes we tell clients, we need to actually think about how do we set the context, right? How do we invite our partners to have this conversation with us? How do we say, I have some, maybe they come back home, dah chill, dah makan, dah relax, and then you start with, for example, but maybe you've been doing this, which is, I have something that's nagging. Do you have the space to have this conversation or not? I think it'll be a difficult one. Can we spend some time talking about it? And then the guy will be like, okay, maybe they have other things in their mind. And they say, okay, give me like 10 minutes. And you need to allow that process to happen. Right? Then 10 minutes pass, you're smiling. Right? Maybe you'll tell me what
this just happened yesterday.
No, I'm not reading your mind, by the way. Okay, I'm not. Just disclaimer, right? But I mean, these are you guys experienced this yesterday, and these are things that I can imagine a lot of couples also go through, right? So how do you invite to be in a space where you can talk? So your system is ready, tau. So you don't go into fight mode. You don't go into defensive mode. And if the intention that is clearly mentioned that I actually want to do this because I want to communicate with you, I want to connect with you, I want us to have a deeper understanding of each other, I want to understand you so that you also understand me, then it becomes a very different conversation. It can still be very difficult, but the invitation to stay with the discomfort is a lot more than if you go on fighting mode with each other.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Farah always because when we first got married, the first few months or the first 2 years especially, I'm someone with a temper. So sometimes when I try to get a message across, I tend to go a bit on the anger mode, the fight mode. And the first thing she always says is, I don't like it when you shout. I don't like it when you're angry. There's always many ways for us to address anger and the temper and whatnot. So when I see her reacting that way, she's not fighting back. She's just like being soft and say, I don't like it, man. And things like that. And that like it doused the flame off a bit for me. And then eventually I realized that the more if I have to keep doing that, it's just going to be creating more tension between me and my wife. So slowly I try, personally, I try to, calm myself down first, and then with the idea in my head that I want to solve the problem. The moment I have that in my head, automatically what you mentioned, exactly what you mentioned. You know, I want to come out of this situation with a solution. If there's no solution, at least to really address it properly and maybe find a solution in another day, another time. So, alhamdulillah.
I think that's another thing that you've highlighted, right? Because there is the process of feedback giving, and excited sangat because of feedback. Feedback giving and feedback receiving, right? So if Farah was giving you feedback all the time, but you're not taking it and you're not receiving it, you're not internalizing it, change won't occur, right? So I think, and if let's say you are all on your own with your anger and then the feedback didn't come, because we were talking about how couples can begin to communicate. So that's part of it, the feedback giving and feedback receiving, right? So if Farah didn't give the feedback, you wouldn't make the change. And if he didn't receive the feedback, your thoughts are, it leads nowhere. The anger stays. So there is a need for that process of feedback giving and receiving at the same time in order for change to actually occur in the communication.
So my question for you is, how then can, you know, if they are not used to receiving feedback and giving feedback, you know, how then can a couple actually address that as an individual and then collectively as a couple?
Right. I think it's going back to what Nabilah was saying earlier. I think the first thing is really about setting the stage. That these two individuals need to be on the same page about what is it that they want in the marriage, what is it that they want moving forward, and how to move forward together. So being on the same page and having openness is the first step, right? So moving on from that, it's about trial and error. It's about experimenting. So sometimes in sessions we will tell couples, like, okay, go date each other. When was the last time you flirt with each other? So when was the last time you took your wife out? When was the last time you surprised your husband, right? So we need to understand what is important to the other person. So I've had also people, especially actually that's not true. I was going to say the older men, but it's actually, I'm hearing it from the younger men as well, where they say what is important to them is if the wife take a drink for them, right? And so to the wife is like,
can do yourself what?
Oh my God.
But so in one of the conversations I had, like when we really dive into like, what does it mean for you when you see your wife take a drink for you? For this person, it means that, hey, she's showing care. It's not so much about...
It's deeper than that, guys. It's not just because
it's
of a drink.
He's not just wanting a drink.
Okay.
Because
do we need to be concerned about that?
we had this exact same conversation a few months ago. This exact same example. Oh my goodness.
So I think like I'm just also wanting to, talk to your listeners as well. So sometimes like some of these things that we are talking about, there's actually a lot of similarities that we as humanity face, right? In one couple or the other couple, there are a lot of similarities that goes on. So sometimes it has to go back to, with this particular couple, what he was talking about. Actually, there was one older man and one younger man saying the same idea, that when I see my wife do this, it tells me that she cares for me, right? So it's about I'm not saying from now, just this disclaimer, I'm not saying that from now on wives should take drinks for husband. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Because not all husbands will appreciate it.
It depends on the partner.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So it depends on what is important to my partner. I think that question is important to ask. And what's important to me, and how do I articulate it to my partner that's what I want.
So it's really about the meaning making, right? Like you said, it's deeper than just a glass of water, right? So I think maybe you guys have heard this before. What's your love language?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But for us, we would always ask, what would you describe care as? What would be care to you? How do you show care? How would you like to receive care? Right? These are questions that we may expect, but we've never thought about it for your own. Right? For some people, care means providing me a glass of water when I come back home. For some, it's I just need you to give me just hug for a little while, and then it decompresses me, and then I'll be fine. For some, it's really needing some space. When I come home, give me half an hour to de-stress, don't kacau me, and then I'll be able to come back to my role or my function. So different people have very different ways, and there's very different meaning that's attached to something as simple as here's a glass of water.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Kenapa tadi you got eye sakit?
Nak tahu juga.
Because I share. So there was one day It was after Solat Jumaat. So the sun was very shining brightly,
So
very
hot.
scorching hot. You know?
Can share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tak payah bukan ini is a lesson learned.
Yeah.
So I came home. She was doing her work, sitting down. No, you're watching TV.
I think I watch a TV.
Yeah. So the first thing I said was, "It's so hot outside." No, like I just said, "It's so hot outside. I'm so tired."
Then what did I say?
Okay. She just said,
Then I
"Okay,"
laughed.
and then she laughed.
I
Then I'm
don't
like,
know why I laughed, but I did.
Then I'm like, oh. And then at that point in time, I thought, does she not want to take a glass of water for me? After I said I'm tired and it's hot. Then after that, I took a glass of water for myself. Then I sat down beside her and I said, do you know what would be nice? If I come home and I see it's hot, and then you say, it's hot, you want a glass of water? If you ask me that already, I think I'll feel very happy. Yeah, but then okay, I'll take note of it now. And then subsequently, when I come home, I tested her one day. Oh, it's so hot. You want water? Yes, please. Settle.
Right.
So imagine if you did not articulate
Yep,
that. That's what
exactly.
Basithah was talking about.
Yeah.
Feedback. If you did not articulate that, you pendam, you simpan, and then suddenly somebody else give you a glass of water on a hot day. Ding, ding, ding.
Or
Right?
something else happen and go like, oh, it's because that time you never take a drink for me.
Oh
Right? It
my
becomes something
God.
else, right? It develops into something
It's
else.
like you're planting a seed if
Oh my
you don't
God.
address it.
Guys, are you following us? Can you see the pattern here?
Yeah, it may seem like very trivial about a glass of water, but it's more than it's about the
Yeah.
thought process
So
behind
like
it.
if I were to challenge you, right? Where in the sentence it's really hot and I'm tired equals to a glass of water? There's nothing in there that tells her that you actually wanted a glass of water. What would, if I were to challenge you, what stopped you from saying, hey, can you get me a glass of water? And you make that request. Then you would not feel that she's neglecting you or anything, and she would happily do it. Right? So this is also the mind game that I was talking about, that we make assumptions that our spouse know when we say these words, this is what we actually want. But there's nothing in that sentence that says, I want a glass of water.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
So, right, but I said, but I'm not, challenging you in that way, but it's really to make you think about what are the things that we say and the things that we intend in our hearts may not be congruent. I'm using the word congruent because it's not that it doesn't make sense, but there's a lot of things that's not said that you think you want somebody else to pick it up, but when they don't pick it up, you blame the other person.
Right.
And women, we do this a lot. I will say, we do this a lot where we say one thing, what we mean is another.
Yeah.
Right? Like as typical as, how are you doing today? I'm fine.
Padahal so many things happen.
So many things happened, right? And so what stops the woman from saying, I'm actually not feeling okay, for example. Right? So what stops us from making a request? What stops us from being genuine instead of getting our spouses to play mind games with each other?
I would like to just understand it. Is there a reason why people actually do these mind games? Like, is it because they want them to be knowingly surprised that they know what?
But logical, right? Tak masuk akal.
Tak masuk akal, but
but we
why do we do it?
But why?
Why do you guys do it?
Maybe nak cakap malu, tapi we think that
Malu
Malu tapi mau.
but we think like the other person know us well enough to know what we actually mean.
Can I put a theory on it?
Okay.
Not theory, like hypothesis.
Oh.
Maybe because in a way I want to see how much she cares about what I'm saying, to be like spatially aware of what's happening to your partner. Does it make sense?
It could be so many different reasons why we do that, right? It could be test water. I want to see whether he really cares about me or not. I want to see whether he really knows me or he say only, right? There's so many reasons why we do this, for whatever reasons. But sometimes I ask my couples, wouldn't you make things a lot easier, save a lot of trouble, if you had learned how to, when you know what you need, make a request. Right? And so I use the word request because sometimes people say it can be very demanding. Right?
Request.
So how do you make a request that matches the capacity of your partner? Because some people might not. I'll give you an example. Maybe one person is a very touchy-feely, PDA, huggy, right? The other one is not. So how, and these are two conflicting needs.
Right.
So how do you learn how to negotiate?
I love how they every time you speak they're like smiling.
I think you might redo or something. Okay.
You know, how
Stop
do
laughing.
I feel like I know what you guys are going to say, but yes. How do you negotiate? And negotiating is a skill. How do you negotiate moments where, yes, we can be all physically intimate, closeness together with each other, but there are moments where I also need some space, right? Because for some, the physical touch may be a lot more meaningful. For some, the space is more meaningful. So if we don't articulate and communicate these needs, then it'll become, oh, see, I mean, or I hear a lot of people say, oh, this is just who I am.
Yeah. Yep.
This is me. I'm not a hugger kind. I'm not this, I'm not that. But we are entering a marriage where it is about negotiation. It's about finding what the middle ground potentially can look like.
Yes.
It's not about living in polar opposites. You know, opposites do attract, yes, but there are moments where you have to learn how to attend to what one spouse needs and also learn about what the other one is actually requesting. So it's also a lot of, you know, it's work in progress. I feel like marriage is a whole process and work in progress.
There's never an the end goal is to jannah lah, of course.
Inshallah.
But of course, I feel that even to the older age, as the more we delve into marriage, the longer we are in it, we need to constantly be working on the marriage itself.
Yeah, because I find that, I believe that people change.
Yeah.
We go through different life transitions. Like, you know, we have the family life cycle. And couples newly married, no children. And then you have children at a young age, children at an older age.
Right.
You know, you are taking care of your parents, you know, when you are at a retirement age. You go through so many different changes. And these changes are often not talked about or communicated about. Maybe as a young couple, you do like maybe the physical touch. But if you grow older, maybe you don't, right? Maybe before this, you wanted a glass of water. But after this, maybe water not enough. I actually want coffee, right? I actually want tea, right? So I'm giving a simple example, but we change and we need, that's why it's a journey. Marriage is a journey because it change. Our needs also changes over time. Our spouse's needs also changes over time. And if we don't talk about it, we lose sight of what's actually going on with them.
Yes. That's true.
And then tying back to the topic for today, when that doesn't happen with each other, somehow or rather another person comes and does that, you know, whatever that was supposed to be done.
Meet the unmet needs.
And then that's where it could potentially lead to infidelity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now going back into infidelity, right?
Yep.
So that was just now was like the how we can actually strengthen our marriage to prevent infidelity in the first place.
Yep.
But now
from a therapist perspective, what are the different ways couples can approach healing after infidelity?
Couple therapy.
Of course, I think that's definitely an option, a must.
Yeah, I think some of the things that we've actually spoken also applies in terms of healing relationships, right? So about the communication aspect, about understanding needs and all that. So definitely those things can assist in the healing process. But I think above all else, what is needed for the couple is to actually come to a space where not just about a safe space. Wow.
Very fires.
Safe space. Safe space. It's not just about having a safe space. It's also about having a brave space.
Brave space.
Yeah. So having a brave space is talking about how do you talk about things openly in a way that is non-judgmental.
Okay.
Where the idea or the intention is to build bridges instead of burning them, or to make obstacles along the way. So part of healing process, and maybe Nabilah can add on a little bit more on that. It's about understanding what healing is needed.
What healing is needed?
Right? Is it a mental kind of healing? Is it an emotional kind of healing? A spiritual kind of healing? Because one of the things that we have also noticed is that, especially if it's a physical affair, for instance, there are couples who say things like, dia tak semayang, dia buat macam gini because of, never pray and things like that. So when they see their spouse pray, means, oh, you are getting better. You are reconnecting with God. So if I see you reconnecting with God, therefore I feel like you are getting better, and therefore I feel like we can heal together. So
I
that's more of a spiritual kind of healing that they're needing, right? But so there are different aspects. I don't know if you want to add on.
I think the question is, what are the ways that couples can work through their healing, right? I think we talk about in the context of infidelity, there are a few sort of like general guidelines. We call it guidelines. Is if you want, working on a marriage after an infidelity is very difficult, but it's not impossible, right? And it requires both parties to be very committed to working through what these unmet needs are, having very vulnerable, brave conversations with each other. And number one, which is sort of like a no-brainer, is the cheating has to already stop.
Okay.
Right? There's no such thing as working on the marriage while still having an affair, for example. It doesn't work that way, because then the betrayal or the trust and all that would still be ongoing, and then it'll be a recurrent thing that's happening.
Yes. Okay.
And I said number two, both parties have to be willing to put the heart and heart work in it.
Heart and heart.
And hard.
Right? And they ought to be, ideally, they ought to be no more untruthful incidences, no more lies in that context. Because what happens when a betrayal has happened is that, how do I put it? The idea that you have about the other person sort of like gets very distorted.
Yeah.
You cannot differentiate between what's truth and lie anymore. You just can't, because previously you told me what I assumed was the truth, or you portrayed it as the truth, but it was a lie. And then now you're telling me, no, all those things have stopped, I've changed and all that. But you see, but you lied to me before.
Yeah.
You can potentially lie to me again now. So to differentiate between truth and lie is very difficult. That's why we say trust will potentially not go to 100% anymore. So with our couples, we negotiate, okay, what would agreed upon trust building percentage, maybe, for example, look like? It will not be 100%, but what would you be comfortable with? Then maybe they'll say, okay, maybe 70%, I want to work towards 70%. Now I'm at 30. I want to work to 70, and I think if I'm at 70, this marriage can sustain. And then the person who has betrayed also can, okay, I think I will acknowledge the fact that I have done this act. I'm remorseful. I regret. I also want to work on my marriage. I'm okay with her having moments, or him having moments, where there will be moments of doubts. Right? Because that's the reality of it. You, like you said, you can potentially forgive, but you will not be able to forget. Right? So then it's also about, for us, what we are very particular about the kind of language that we use. We'll ask the couple, what do you want to name this? Do we want to name it the betrayal? Do you want to call it cheating? Do you want to call it an episode? Do you want to call it an incident? Because when you name or you externalize, the word, then you can actually begin to talk about it in a way that both you and I and the couple understand. Right? So finding a common language is really important, especially if one person says it's cheating, the other person says it's not. Right. Then that's difficult. You have to come to a consensus that, okay, yes, this is what has happened, right? And then that's where you can have opportunities to talk about all these things that perhaps when you never had the opportunity to speak about before, or you just didn't know how to articulate it in the first place, right? So in terms of infidelity, see what happens if I draw a line, the person who the one who has committed the act of betrayal, and they are remorseful, they want to work on the marriage, they want to move very quickly to the past. I want to move on from this, right? Either because of the shame, the guilt that they're experiencing. I don't want to remember who I was before. That's not who I am anymore now, and I want to change. So they go very fast to the future. But the person who has just discovered the betrayal, they're very much still in the past. I'm still like, this is what happened. I'm still in shock. I can't believe this is happening. How could...
Trying to understand.
Still trying to make sense. And things just didn't make sense, right? So they're in the past. So you see how far apart they are, and where I'm holding my hand? They're very far apart. So sometimes they tend to like yank each other. Just move on lah. You want to work on the marriage, what? Move on lah. And then this person's like, no, but I'm not ready. And then or this person wants to just talk about the past, and this person gets dragged into who they were before, and drown in their guilt and their sorrow. Then that's not going to be useful in working in a couple relationship. So in therapy, it's really about how do we find moments where we smallen the gap with each other. we focus on what can be done now, right? The now is really important because that's the only thing that you can potentially quote unquote control, right? So how do we have a bit of things that happened in the past, and how do we also have a bit of things that happens in the future? So that's a bit of how we navigate with couples who have experienced infidelity and really want to work on it.
I just want to add on to this
line.
I mean, of course, I think some of your listeners are listening and not watching the video. But I think sometimes it's not about the client who has been betrayed, right? Don't just sometimes live in the past. Sometimes they are trying to live in the present, and then something happened, a text bunyi, malam-malam bunyi text, and then they get yanked back to the past. So sometimes it is voluntary, sometimes it's involuntary. So a lot of things there actually is needing to unpack. So sometimes this person who has been yanked back to the past needs the other person to help them move forward. Sometimes this person who is way too in the future already said sorry, already minta maaf, already repent, this person is needing to meet, to be in the present again, because that's where the relationship is, in the present. So that's when the healing can actually happen together. So there's a need to, it's like a dance, right? You're needing to,
tango?
yes.
Is it a tango or a waltz? It's a slow dance.
Yes. So there's a need to move in that way so that you can find the rhythm and not step on each other's toes as you are moving towards healing, as you dancing through healing.
So like earlier we say infidelity does not happen in isolation. Healing also does not happen in isolation. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen within the self of both who committed the act of betrayal and the person who has been betrayed. There's so many things that gets, triggered. I think I use the word triggered. You can get very much triggered by it. So the healing happens individually, and it also has to happen as a couple.
Right.
So you need to help each other out. So like you say, you may not be able to forget, and that's very true. If you put an expectation on your spouse, for example, to forget, it will not happen, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, how do we learn how to not get triggered at every opportunity? If you're wanting to work on the marriage. So if the spouse who has betrayed, shows commitment, and that's the key word is often consistency. And it's consistency over time, right? So I have couples ask me, do you know if he will cheat again or not? Right? They ask us,
they ask you.
do you believe that when he's doing all of this, it means he will not cheat on me anymore? And I will say, I honestly, I will not know. And that's where the 20-30% that we talk about, the room for error happens. I'm not God, neither are you, and neither is him or her, right? But how do we have certain kind of, maybe we'll talk about it a bit more later, how do we have faith in the picture where we couple with the hard work and the hard work, the consistency over time? How do we help each other move along in a pace that's more comfortable with each other in the healing process?
I think part of the mindset also has to be about, it's not static. Healing is not static, right? So it's not linear in a way. So there's ups and downs, and it's not it's a journey in itself.
Okay.
Right? And there's no deadline to it. So sometimes people talk about it because sometimes people experience we call it EMA, extramarital affairs, right? Or infidelity. Sometimes they relate it to something traumatic. This is trauma for them, for some people.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about trauma and we're talking about healing, it's never going to be, okay, this happened, I process it, I'm healed. It's never like that. So there is number one, the process of healing, and the mindset of seeing it as it's not a destination, or there's no one cure, or what do you call it?
One size fits all.
One size fits all kind of treatment in that way.
So we will have to look at the context that they come in, because like we said, there's 3 types of infidelity, right? Different things have different complexities to it. So when couples come for therapy, it's really tailoring to what happened to them, because what happened to them might not be happening to another person. It's very unique in that sense that the big picture can be infidelity or extramarital affairs, but the complexity that goes in the couple relationship is uniquely theirs, and that's what we have to honor both parties. So in therapy, we're not here to side and tell you whether you're wrong or you're right, but it's really about unpacking some of these things and make meanings and how we make sense of the whole situation and how both can improve together in their journey in their marriage.
I do have a question though, because I want to know like if I'm like openly blaming, for example, I'm the person A blames the spouse and then talks about it as though
Very
casually, but then maybe perhaps the spouse feels hurt, but because he is guilty, he allows that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, get what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I'm following.
So is it healthy in that sense, or is that a form of healing, or is it?
I mean,
no?
it's very hard to say. I mean, because I'm just thinking of one couple that I had where the infidelity was both physical and also romantic, right? And that's the hardest affair to get over. So I was working with this couple for I think almost 2 years.
Wow, that's a long process.
At different points of their experience, and towards the end of the therapy session, they could talk about it a bit more casually. Right, so before when you talk about it, there's tears because it is really gut-wrenching kind. There's tears, there's anger, there's frustration, there's guilt, there's blame and everything. But towards the end, they can talk about it as something that was a bit of an eye-opener for them. And this is something that we can tie off with a bit of the research when it comes to infidelity as well. Is that you see, I think you mentioned, when people say infidelity, you cheat on me means that's the end of the marriage. We're talking about divorce, but that's not necessarily the case, because sometimes, and I say this very carefully, okay, please do not take this out of context, people, is that sometimes any act of betrayal or infidelity can actually be a potential of growth for the couple. Right? Because maybe the things that you have not talked about before, that you kept to yourself, you implode or explode for whatever reason, had never had the space to be brought up to the surface. Right? So it's an opportunity to really know your partner, because you also know yourself in the process. Like you say just now, you give an example of, I didn't know this is what I actually wanted until somebody else gave it to me. Right? And that's a process of discovery of the self. So how do we bring it to the couple relationship? Because I have seen successful cases where it really became the trigger or the macam pencetus lah. I don't know if it's impetus, right? That's the word I was looking for. The impetus for actual change and actual growth in the marriage, right? But again, it does not justify the cheating. But when we talk about healing after infidelity, it is still very much possible. So divorce is not always the answer in certain contexts.
Yes. So always go for therapy first if you have thoughts. Try to save it lah. Kesian kita punya partner tu kan. Gitu kan. Tiba tu.
And people also stay for very different reasons. Maybe we'll talk about it later. We'll see.
Now we've talked about how to heal, right, after the act of betrayal. But when is it clear that divorce might be the healthiest option, even after therapy?
You see, we've been talking about infidelity in a way where there is hope for people to recover from this, and that for the most part that's true, right? It does not always equal to when an incident of cheating has occurred, it does not always equal to therefore I need to divorce, right? And we have a lot of couples who actually really want to stay in the marriage for multiple reasons. It's one, maybe it's the love of their life, but they had a lapse of judgment. They have children to think about, and when we talk about divorce, when you have children, of course there will be implications. There's also that social implication of, okay, am I ready to be a single mom or single dad again, or am I even just divorce, the term divorcee. People have very different attachment to the word, right? So we want to also say that divorce sometimes can actually be an option, right? So for example, if the person continues the act of cheating over and over again,
despite the therapy,
or despite them trying to work on the marriage, but he can't let go of the other person, for example, and you discover new things about new things that is happening in the now, then potentially both are not committed. The person who committed the act of betrayal may continue doing that for whatever reason, and then you need to take a step back and think about, is this a life that I want to live? Right? Because maybe you don't anymore, right? there are also moments I've experienced with clients where the spouse who betrayed actually is 100% in, and they have they're willing to put in the effort, and they do put in the effort, and I see it. But the person who got betrayed have built 10 layers of walls.
Wall of China.
So that means they are not able to receive anymore, right? And if the person notices that, I've checked out, I know he can be doing everything right now, but I just cannot anymore. So you need to know yourself in that aspect. And if you've checked out already from the marriage, your one foot is already out or both foot is already out, then you're also not being fair to the marriage itself. You're not being fair to the efforts that your spouse have been making, because you are no longer able to receive. Right? Basithah, do you want to add on?
I think, especially in therapy, we are always wanting couples to think through, right? When they're making a certain decision, are they making it out of anger? Are they making it out of, of trying already? And so one of the things that we talked about is what has the trying look like, right? So sometimes couples come in and say, oh, kita dah cuba, we tried this and this and this. But the way they've been trying has been the same, right? So then we try to introduce a difference. So if let's say couples have done that, try to introduce a difference in their relationship and things still didn't work out, I suppose, that's when we can help them figure out, perhaps that's where the amicable divorce can happen.
Right.
Moving towards the next chapter of their lives. So it's not completely the end, in a way. We are also not in any way advocating for divorce, but it has been made permissible. It is an option for some people who are not able to be in a relationship.
In a way, it will be healthier for them to go through. Not all cases, but
for some
sometimes.
cases. And I do want to put this into certain perspective as well, right? Because I've seen couples who, when these things happens in the couple relationship, they get labeled, especially when they have children, the spouse who cheated gets labeled as you're a bad person. Right? But most often than not, what we do, and if you do see these kinds of cases, is when you cheat, or if you're not a good spouse, it does not equal to you not being a good parent. Because those are two different roles, right? Yes, the hurt also can transcend to the kids, right? And definitely the spouse. But it does not always mean that because they are not a good spouse, it makes them automatically be a bad parent. Right? So that's something important that I thought I'd want to say. Because it's very easy to lump everything together instead of differentiating the two.
I would agree to that as well. Sometimes they can be the perfect parent. They might not be the perfect wife or husband. But I think this is more so for, let's say, for children who are going through parents who are divorcing because of certain issues, that they also have to open up their hearts and eyes to see the actual fact that sometimes, yes, they might not be making the right decision for their partner, for their mom or for their dad, but they are doing things right for the children. So I think we have to also, I feel that this can actually be a step for the parents who are affected to heal as well, to acknowledge that they are actually something good, they're doing something right. They can actually help them to, my parents know, my kids know I'm doing something right. So maybe I can use this to motivate myself to be a better husband instead, or better wife instead.
It could be. Children can be a motivating factor, but for us, what's crucial is you need to still have something in the couple relationship, right? When you want to talk about staying after something big has happened, we need to find something about the couple, because you started off as a couple. You didn't start off just suddenly becoming parents, right? Your role or your relationship started off as a couple. So there needs to be something that you can still hold on to in the couple relationship. Children are a bonus. Right?
Yes,
bonus,
that's the word.
the bonus in a way that they are the motivating factor, but they cannot be the reason why they stay. But if you talk about divorce, I think a research recently came out about how it's not the divorce that impacts the children, it's the conflict that lies within the relationship. Right? That means if you are unhappy in your marriage and there's a lot of conflict, your children will still be very much impacted in the marriage. Right? And if divorce allows you to have that space where you don't get into a conflict, then that could be a better option, because the children are not living in conflict. even in divorce, that's why we talk about amicable divorce, right? Because the conflict can still continue after that. And that will also be the thing that's impacting the children a lot more in the long run, right? So, and we also don't want to, I think, and I hear this because I also have conversations with children who have been, adult children who have been affected from divorce. They hear their parents say things like, I stayed on this marriage, I stayed with your mom or dad because of you. And I thought, when every time I hear that, my heart drops, because I'm like, how can you put such a huge burden on the child who is part of the picture, but is not the cause of it, right? So when I hear parents say things like, I'm staying for the sake of the kids, and they dismiss entirely the couple relationship, I would say it's not enough. You cannot put that burden on your children to hold the relationship together. It's almost like you're expecting your child to hold your marriage intact, and that's really unfair. So that's why it's always important to have something that the couple relationship hold on to. Children are bonuses in the mix of the picture.
Wow.
And last question before we end. What would you advise couples out there who
are listening to this, and then they might be facing infidelity in their life and in their own relationship,
might just having some communication issues or what will you
general
say to them?
advice?
I think firstly I would go back to what we talked about earlier, which is, discomfort is not bad, right?
Discomfort is not bad.
It's okay to sit with the discomfort of what's going on with you, whether you are someone who has done the act of betrayal or whether you have been betrayed. To sit in the discomfort and have the difficult conversations together, I think that part is crucial. And if you don't know how to have the conversation, come seek professional help.
Yes, definitely.
Right?
So that you can learn how to do that. Because I think that part is really crucial, because it goes back to the image that you had earlier about the grass being greener on the other side, right? So that maybe when things like this happens, that's when you realize, having an earthworm at my side.
For example,
It's really quite nice.
I just realized I need earthworm, right?
Yeah.
Or I just realized that what's important to me is to have earthworm here rather than there. So I think there is a need to self-reflect about what's going on with you. Having some self-awareness is really important.
Self-awareness.
So, but in order to do all of that, it's going to be uncomfortable. So sit with the discomfort. Find some space where you can be brave to do that on your individual self and with your spouse as well. I think that part is what I would advocate for. And if you need support, that's what therapy is for.
Yes.
I mean, I'm reminded of something that I saw in a reel some time back, and it was this it's by an ustaz, and I forgot his name, but he was talking about how in Islam God describes different words for different things. Hope is love, right?
Hope.
But when he describes marriage, he didn't use the word hope. He used sakinah wa mawaddah wa rahmah, and it loosely translates. So you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's about compassion. It's about mercy. It's about togetherness. He uses different words to describe what's needed. So when it comes to infidelity or even anything that's difficult that has happened in your marriage, infidelity or not, in order to want to repair or heal, in the relationship, we need to have some level of compassion, patience, and also mercy towards each other, right? Because if you talk about it, if you continue to look at it from a blaming stance, it's almost like the question is, how long are you going to punish this person for what they did? Even somebody who is incarcerated has a sentence is over, it's over and done with, khalas, right? It's the end of it. But when it comes to something like this, I sometimes throw these questions to my client. It's been maybe 2 years. Both of you have been trying to work on the relationship and things are going pretty well. But how long more are you going to punish him and remind him of whatever that he did? Or what she did, because that might be a version of themselves or the one who committed the act of betrayal that they don't want to remember anymore, that they have been very remorseful about. They want to leave that person behind, and because they have found a new, renewed version of themselves, and how do we focus on that instead, right? And how we've been talking about this is, I want to acknowledge that infidelity is one of the most painful things you can experience in a marriage. One of the more painful things. I've heard couples say, kalau tak ada duit tak apa. As long as you don't cheat on me. If you, I can go through thick and thin with you, but this is the one thing that I cannot, accept or tolerate. But it still happened, right? But they are, and working through it is, I would say, one of the most challenging things any couple would have to go through.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. So if you, and for us, we are advocating for you to have somebody else to come, because it's different if you talk to family members or friends.
Right.
Because of course, friends and family members will take sides, because we're just built that way. So if you speak to a professional, it's not about airing your dirty laundry. It's not about buka aib. It's permissible in the religion to do that, because you are seeking from a quote-unquote learned person to help you solve your problem, right? And all of us need a lot of guidance, especially when we have things which we are also struggling with. Yeah.
Oh, mashallah.
I wish we can go on for more.
Yeah, we actually have a lot more questions to ask, but we unfortunately are running out of time.
Yeah,
so
if you guys want to know more, or if you're curious,
if you want more content like this, please let us know. Okay, we will do a poll lah, as usual. Say yes, we want more, and inshallah we can have them come back. Inshallah.
But at the same time also, you can follow them on their socials, because I think they also have, let's say lah, you guys want to contact them, maybe you can share your socials.
Right. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. The name is SYM Sym Academy, ACADEMY. So you follow us, and then because we do share certain contents on our socials.
Nice.
We have therapist guide to different things or different perspectives to things.
Okay, nice. So follow them at Sym Academy. Alright, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Nabilah, for such an insightful conversation. It's a very difficult topic indeed, but I think it needs to be.
Yeah, I went on an emotional roller coaster, guys.
Yeah.
I can see him having certain reactions, holding back certain tears, and it really is a testament to. We've been sitting here for what, an hour plus, right? And it is a difficult conversation, and we held it together. And that's what we're also sharing with the couples, that it's difficult. Some questions like, do we ask this question? Do we not? But it's really about staying through it, and then hopefully getting something good out of it.
Inshallah.
Thank you for sitting with the discomfort, guys.
Love it.
Sit with the discomfort.
Sit with the discomfort.
Own it.
Okay,
thank you so much. But if you're looking for advice on your houses,
property matters, you can contact Sri Kandi Associates.
Yes.
Looking for your first matrimonial house? Planning to upgrade? Look no further.
For your property matters, contact Sri Kandi Associates at 8788-3559 8788-3559. Sri Kandi, jangan tak jadi.
We'll be back.
Sri Kandi, jangan tak jadi.
Hi guys, welcome back.
Yes.
We are again with Ira Pertiwi and Liza from
Sri Kandi Associates. So for your property matters, contact Sri Kandi Associates at 8788-3559 8788-3559. Sri Kandi, jangan tak jadi.
Dan itulah suara-suara yang akan anda mendengar dengan lebih kerap lagi. InsyaAllah. Tiba-tiba berbual aku. Okay.
Salah pijit butang. Itu dia.
Okay, so since we have Sri Kandi Associates with us, right? Kita adalah juga tertanya-tanya, kita punya rumah ni kan, actually kan, dah 3 tahun. Right? Tengah terfikir-fikir lah what we should do after kita dah MOP. Betul?
Yes.
After 5 years. We got to thinking macam how we got this house in the first place. Macam mana, what was the feeling like?
Bila dapat rumah tu macam Masya Allah, Alhamdulillah kan.
Actually we saw 7 units.
Tak apply BTO, is it like tak successful or apa?
Kita go for, because we were looking at the timeline lah.
Yeah.
Time
wasn't on our side lah. Yeah, so we went for the resale route.
At the same time also kita wanted to go for a unit yang dah siap. in terms of renovation,
We
that.
didn't really have funds for renovation, full house renovation lah. So when we saw this unit, kita macam, alhamdulillah, moving condition. So that was actually one of the biggest factors we got this house. Sekarang dah jadi outside in studio.
Alhamdulillah. Rezeki.
Lagipun sales of balance pun, I think the location at the point in time we wanted to get also wasn't favourable lah.
Oh yes. Pasal recently I ada tengah tolong one of my client apply for the sales of balance flat lah. So I think the application close today, tak salah or was it tomorrow?
Dia Tampines punya.
They applied for Sengkang.
Oh, Sengkang. Okay.
Yeah. Then yesterday we look at the applications received kan. Then they got like, can get or not?
Alamak.
You know that kind, because they are second time. Now they are
okay.
currently staying in
Looking for
resale with grants.
Right.
So take note kalau resale but you take with grants is considered subsidized.
Right.
Okay. Boleh.
So now they are going into the BTO route lah.
Okay.
Sales of balance
Sales
route.
of
Sorry,
balance.
bukan BTO.
Sales of balance. Okay.
So sales of balance flat is like really goreng pisang panas.
Yes.
Senang-senang orang nak
And then
apply
yesterday they just texted me, how to see the applications received? Okay, I masuk, I screenshot angkau gitu. It's like berapa puluh of like berapa ratus or ribu.
The queue number.
Yeah, I mean dia punya
the
application versus the availability. So it's like they are down lah. Obviously you see the numbers.
Yeah.
So I would say okay lah, ni semua nasib lah. If your rezeki is there, because they also go by computer ballot apa?
Yeah.
So
And then ada juga dia punya first timers to get priority and whatnot.
Correct. But you may never know, because I pernah ada dengar lah cerita my colleague punya client di second timer tapi diorang dapat. And it's a good queue number, you see.
Okay.
So
Rezeki juga.
correct. Correct. Ni semua nasib. If rezeki you kat situ lah. If not there, then there's other path for you lah.
Right. Macam kita punya rezeki is resale.
Betul.
Alhamdulillah.
But do you guys remember how was it like to get your own first house?
First I apply. Okay, my first house was a BTO.
Okay, BTO.
Okay.
So that was I applied in 2005. That time demand tak macam sekarang.
Sekarang semua nak resale.
Demand tak macam sekarang. Dulu I think my time ada 2 BTO punya project script tau, because undersubscribe.
Serious
Yes, I remember that.
Oh wow.
Sekarang nampak macam gitu, I don't think so lah.
Sekarang semua apply.
Yes.
Too much, cannot meet the demand.
Yeah, correct. So alhamdulillah my queue number was okay. 108 I remember very well out of 600 units.
Confirm dapat unit lah.
Confirm high floor.
Best.
High floor. Habis like if you all are familiar with Punggol, my house is actually yang across the MRT, yang dekat Sheng Siong situ.
Okay.
Yes.
Malam-malam lapar boleh turun Sheng Siong
Betul. Ini legit. Pasal bila aku punya orang, aku macam kalau masak, alamak tak ada bawang aja, aku suruh anak aku beli. Aku tak beli tau, anak aku beli.
Biasa.
Wow. Senang lah.
Senang.
Dekat kita bawah tak ada. Kena jalan kaki.
Minimat tapi
Minimat
not a lot
tutup
choice.
pukul 10.
Oh betul juga. 24
Nak
hours.
pergi yang 24 hour ni kena jalan 10 minit.
Betul.
Tapi tak apa, kita pilih tempat ni, kita happy. Betul tak terfikir pasal Sheng Siong, tak apalah.
So apparently we got our keys in 2009, tak salah. I can't remember lah, but we moved in a bit later.
Okay.
Then after that, we stayed there for about 9 years.
9 years.
Me and my husband lah,
Dia
dengan my
BTO
kids
that
lah.
one
Yeah, then we decided to sell. So that was actually the turning point where I had wanted to become a property agent.
Oh nice.
Yeah. So long story short lah. Okay. Something happened. Okay. So I mean I'm a very curious person, you see.
Okay.
So the thing is I fikir balik lah macam, because that time I'm bukan agent, so I don't know timeline.
Of course. Yeah.
So then I was like, kenapa macam ni? You know,
There
that
were
kind
a
of
lot of doubts and questions in your head lah.
Then after that, but I saw how they do the negotiations lah. Then I was like, okay, I'm very, macam mana diorang buat So I decided to go into real estate to know to go into their world. Okay. But because that was never in my plan.
Okay.
Because my plan initially, because I like law, so I was doing law all the way. But then pasal ni lah,
Because of your house lah.
correct. Then dah dapat license, I cakap dengan my husband, betul-betul timeline kita lari tau. I cakap dengan my husband, kalau tidak kita macam homeless sih. Then I was like, Okay lah, okay balik, you know, like we learn from there.
Yeah.
We know that okay, you have to do the best for your clients. At the end of the day, a lot of planning has to be done.
Betul.
You know, it's a blessing in disguise lah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of that, I become agent. Then I learn a lot of things like, okay, jangan cock up timeline, jangan gini. This one.
A lot of things was personal experience that you want
Correct.
your clients to make sure that they don't go through something that you went through.
Masya Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Then for Liza pula?
Oh,
Ada tak?
for me, I tried to apply for HDB. Yeah, but
resale
then
juga?
new flat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but I didn't get the queue number. Yeah, so me and my husband tried so many times, we failed. So then we give up lah. We give up, then we tried for sale of balance flat. Sale of balance flat came, we got one in Punggol. But by the time we wanted to select the unit, then dah habis. So that was like the only unit left that we were interested in lah. So then macam okay lah. So what is our next option?
Yeah.
Because at that time I was staying with my parents. But I already have a 1-year-old kid, so we just want to have our own space. You see?
Yes.
Yeah, we have our own family already.
Privacy.
Correct. Then so we decided to just opt for private lah. Yeah. So alhamdulillah, we just went for private, and just nice the project pun dah nak siap. So we managed to get it like I think less than a year. Yeah. So we didn't reno much. Yeah, because private mostly semua dah siap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just like do minor reno and
adjustment.
all that. Yeah. So we just move in, then the rest is history lah. Yeah. So I'm still staying there currently. Yeah. So tengok lah macam mana.
Okay, sorry. This one I'm very curious because it's private So kita macam mana boleh tak private?
InsyaAllah kalau with the right calculation.
Have the right calculation insyaAllah. Because we all have this perception macam private macam wah too far-fetched for me macam I don't have enough CPF and funds and things like that.
Yeah.
But actually possible, is it?
Yeah, actually not true. You must also see how much you have inside your OA. Because some of the private property owners that I spoke to, right, some of them actually, what they are paying monthly for HDB is similar to what they are paying for private. Yeah, so I guess they have quite a sum inside their CPF account. Yeah, so that's why they transition. And it's a better option for them. And especially if you buy dual key, you can actually rent out the other side and make extra income. Yeah, correct. That's another option that you can look out for lah.
Yeah. Kalau kita tak tahu apa-apa, tak tahu pasal benda ni semua kan. Tu pasal penting lah untuk ada orang yang tahu pasal kita punya hal ehwal rumah tangga lah pula. Hal ehwal inilah rumah.
Perumahan, yes.
Pasal but your journey in real estate started to bila, Liza?
Before I got the house.
Okay.
Actually, I started
2014,
2014. So I moved in 2014 as well. So I took the exam in 2012 when I was pregnant. Yeah, because I left my previous job at home for quite some time. Then macam, okay, boring pula duduk kat rumah je tak buat apa-apa. So I decided to, just use my time and take up the course lah. So alhamdulillah, I think rezeki anak juga. Yeah, then I passed the first time. Yeah, it's very difficult lah. So I don't know how I managed to pass, but alhamdulillah lah.
Rezeki.
Yeah, so that's why I decided to hold on to that license until now. Because I know it's very, very precious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lagi-lagi sekarang orang banyak yang apply, banyak yang fail.
Yes.
Termasuk saya.
Yeah.
and then
So cuba lagi.
InsyaAllah. Pasal ada. Tapi sekarang ni pun I malas lah nak belajar lagi. Buat apa nak belajar? Dah ada SriKandi Associates apa?
Oh, wow. So for your property matters, contact SriKandi Associates at 878-83559.
8788-3559.
Yeah, SriKandi,
Jangan
tak jadi.
Let's wrap it up.
We've come to the end of another episode of OUTSIDEIN.
If you like what you hear, please follow us on all our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify and YouTube.
Yes, share it with all of your friends, especially now you can also get your property matters done with SriKandi Associates. So so that they can all be benefit lah from this lah, InsyaAllah. Until next time, Assalamualaikum.